In this video, we're going to be going over where you can farm elemental aversion gear in New World. Elemental aversion gear is going to be more sought after once the new update hits live on March the 28th. There are a slew of combat changes taking place, and these changes are going to shift the meta quite a lot. Most players are now considering replacing Shrinking Fortification on their gear with elemental aversion. This is due to the nerfs that Shrinking Fortification is receiving. If you want to see more about those nerfs, you can check out the Fortified Changes video that I did a little while back. I'll make sure to link that down in the description below. But in this video, we're just going to be talking about where to obtain these pieces and not going to dive into that information. Most of the pieces of gear that you can farm that include elemental aversion do not include resilient, unfortunately. However, you could opt to slot one of these pieces and run 4 pieces of resilient and still be fine after the update, or use one of the farmable pieces as a temporary fix until you obtain a better piece. Some of the pieces listed also include Shrinking Fortification. Shrinking Fortification, of course, is not going to be a very sought after perk, especially on light gear after the update, but again, you can utilize these pieces until you find replacements. Also, most of the gear listed here is going to be obtainable via expeditions. However, there are a few very good pieces that you can farm in the open world, and we're going to start with those first. The first piece of gear we're going to talk about is called Joyful Gloves. These are light gloves with focus on them. They come with elemental aversion, freedom, and refreshing. These gloves could most definitely be considered best in slot. Of course, they don't have resilient on there, but as we talked about before, you could run 4-piece resilient and then use these Joyful Gloves as well, and I think you'll be just fine. But these are pretty good gloves that I would highly recommend going to farm out. These can be found from a mob called Ophois the Joyful. This mob can be found in the middle of Brimstone Sands, right below Heliopolis. There is a point of interest called Autumn's Way, and Ophois is right in the middle of that point of interest. He is a level 66 elite monster, and he drops Frozen Hope, which is an ice gauntlet, along with Joyful Gloves. The next piece of gear we're going to talk about is called the Charioteer's Boots. These are heavy boots with Constitution. They come with elemental aversion, Shrinking Fortification, and refreshing. And these can also be farmed in Brimstone Sands at Dawn's Chariot Kepri. This is the scarab boss that spawns in the arena in Brimstone Sands, and if you farm this boss, you can acquire the Smelter's Gear, the Sunrise Spear, of course the Charioteer's Boots that we're talking about in this video, and then the Dusk Runners. And although the Charioteer's Boots come with Shrinking Fortification on them, this is still a pretty decent piece of gear because they are heavy. Shrinking Fort is going to be a lot better on heavy than it is going to be on light gear, so I think these would be a suitable piece for a lot of builds if you opt to go this route. Again, these don't have resilient on there, but as we mentioned before, a lot of these pieces are not going to, so you could just opt to use them for a little while or replace them a little bit later on down the road. Next, we have 3 more items that also come from Brimstone Sands. However, these come from the grave offerings and the ancient offerings in the zone. If you don't know what the grave offerings and the ancient offerings are, they're just special chests that you can find in the Brimstone Sands area. The first piece of gear we have that comes out of these grave offerings and ancient offerings is called Shadowed Hands. These are medium gloves with focus on there. They have elemental aversion, resilient, and refreshing. These gloves are really, really good. Unfortunately, they are medium, but you could work these into a light gear setup if you wanted to. These are really good gloves. I would highly recommend going to farm these out either way. The next piece is called the Protective Cowl. This is a light headpiece that has intelligence, comes with elemental aversion, resilient, and invigorated. A very good piece of gear that I'd also highly recommend you get. The next one is called the Gossamer Scorpion Egg Robe. This is a light chest piece with intelligence. It comes with elemental aversion, Shrinking Fort, and refreshing. Shrinking Fortification is definitely not ideal, but nonetheless, you could use this until you found a better replacement. Now that moves us on into the expedition gear. All of the remaining pieces that we're going to talk about drop from expeditions. Most of these can drop from the normal expedition that's going to be mentioned, and then there are a few that do drop from the mutated expeditions. So the first piece of gear I want to talk about is called Honorable Shoes. These are light boots with intelligence. They come with elemental aversion, Shrinking Fort, refreshing. These come from the Ennead from a boss named Shy. Definitely not ideal with Shrinking Fort on there, but again, these might get you through until you find a better piece. Next, we're going to move into the Dynasty Shipyard. There is a piece of gear called Zealous Embrace. This is a light helmet with intelligence on there. It comes with elemental aversion, healing tomb, and refreshing. Bear in mind, in order to get this piece of gear at 590 plus, you have to run the Dynasty Shipyard in a mutated version. It does drop from mutated levels 1 on up, so it doesn't have to be a high level mutation, but it does have to be a mutated version nonetheless, or else of course it's not going to drop at 590 plus because none of the gear in there does on the regular version. Aversion. Then we have a piece of gear coming out of the Starstone Amrine mashup. Again, you have to run this on the mutated version because Starstone Amrine, you can't run it any other way. There is no normal version of this dungeon. It's only mutated. And the piece of gear is called the Masquerade Mask. It is a light helmet that has intelligence on it. Comes with elemental aversion, freedom, and refreshing. A very good piece of gear. This drops from Grindel the Regent. Next, we have 3 pieces of gear with elemental aversion that come out of barnacles and black powder. This can be ran on the normal version, and all 3 of these pieces drop expedition wide. First, we have a medium chest piece with constitution on it. It comes with elemental aversion, vigor, and refreshing. It's called the Waterlogged Shirt. Next, we have the Lost Souls gloves. These are light gloves with focus. They come with elemental aversion, vigor, and refreshing. Then we have some medium boots called the Shoes of Cien. These come with strength, and they have elemental aversion, shirking fort, and refreshing evasion. Now we're going to move on into the Tempest Heart Expedition. There are several items that drop out of the Tempest Heart Expedition that have elemental aversion on them, and all of these can be obtained from the normal version of Tempest Heart. We're going to start with the Conqueror's gloves. These are heavy gloves with constitution. They have elemental aversion, vigor, and refreshing. These drop from crewman Alvaro or cutthroat Eduardo within the expedition. We then have the Raiders boots. These are medium boots with strength. They come with elemental aversion, freedom, and refreshing. They drop also from crewman Alvaro and cutthroat Eduardo. These are very good boots. I'd highly recommend you pick these up. Next, we have the entire Wizened set that also comes out of the Tempest Heart Expedition. All 5 of these pieces are light. They all 5 come with intelligence on there, and 3 of these pieces have shirking fortification, making this set not exactly ideal, but nonetheless, you could pick up a couple of these pieces if you needed to, just to get you by until you found something that had resilient in there, or you could slot the Shoes of the Hat that have decent perks on them, and you could choose to use them in a build if you wanted to. We're going to start with the Shoes first. They have elemental aversion, shirking energy, and refreshing. They come from crewman Alvaro and cutthroat Eduardo. Next, we have the Shirt. It comes with elemental aversion, shirking fort, refreshing, and it comes from Akeki. Then we have the Gloves. They have elemental aversion, shirking fort, refreshing. These come from crewman Ruse. Then we have the Pants. These are elemental aversion, shirking fort, refreshing. They come from Uzret. Then we have the Hat. This is elemental aversion, critical retribution, and refreshing, and these come from Varogue. Next, we have another full set called the Sagacious set. 4 of these pieces have elemental aversion on them, but the Pants do not. All of these pieces come with focus on them, and they're all light gear pieces. First, we're going to start with the Shoes. These have elemental aversion, accelerated lights, embrace, and refreshing. These drop from Headman Pang within the Tempest Heart Expedition. Next, we have the Gloves. These come with elemental aversion, shirking fortification, and refreshing. These also drop from Headman Pang. Then we have the Sagacious Hat. This comes with elemental aversion, fortifying sacred ground, and refreshing, and this drops from High Priest Basir. Then we have the Shirt. This comes with elemental aversion, shirking fort, and refreshing, and drops from High Priestess Eiffel. Next, we have the Tactician's Pants. These are light pants with dex, and they come with elemental aversion, invigorated, and refreshing evasion. These drop from High Maiden Lie. Then we have the Honest Thief's Hat, which comes with dex, elemental aversion, empowering explosive arrow, and refreshing. These drop from Isabella. Then we have 2 items that drop from Neshatun. We have Neshatun's boots and Neshatun's gauntlets. The boots are heavy with constitution. They come with elemental aversion, vigor, and refreshing ward. And then we have the gauntlets, which are also constitution, and they come with elemental aversion, empowering breaker, and refreshing ward. And that'll wrap it up for all the items that come out of the Tempest Heart Expedition, as well as all of the elemental aversion items that you can get as drops that I thought was worth mentioning in the video. But that'll do it for this one, boys and girls. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully this helps you out a little bit. Maybe you can go farm out some of these elemental aversion pieces of gear, get them for free, and then get a step up in your build whenever this patch hits live. But thank you guys again for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It helped me out a ton. And of course, we stream every Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock a.m. CST over on twitch.tv/BDLG. Love to have you over there. We have a great time. That'll do it for this one. Thank you guys again. We'll see you in the next one.